Alright, here we are back in Photoshop again, and what we're going to want to do now is start using our numbers to figure out what we are missing and what we're getting, okay? So let's go ahead and turn on our numbering, and now we should have all this in place. And I just noticed that I actually have a duplicate of 15, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this guy 18. Not that it matters, I'll always know the difference, but still, it's just for posterity's sake. I like to have it right. So, what we want to do now is go ahead and save it. So I'm going to go File, Save As, TGA, and save. Yes. Okay. Let's flip back over to Maya LT. We're going to be doing this a lot, so I apologize in advance. We're going to have to it's just part of the process. You got to see what you're doing, you know. So I'm just going to go into my attribute editor and select my sword and go ahead and reload my texture again. So reload, and I should have my numbers in place now. Okay, good. So what I'm trying to find out is where do I have problems, okay? And this is important at this stage because we really want to start making sure that things are clean and kind of fixed up. So there's not really a whole lot of problems in this model at this point. I mean, everything's kind of smoothing nicely. I mean, even in here, which I expected to have kind of some nastiness, is not as nasty as I expected. So things are kind of good. Up here we have a little bit of something funky happening right up on top of there. So that's a perfect place to check first. So here we're at 13. Yeah, there's a couple little, I don't know, gunky areas. So we're going to fix that up. So 13 needs some help and 12 needs some help. Just let's start there. So let's go back over to Photoshop real quick and I'll show you why we actually did all this work. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom into my 13 and 12, which I can find very easily now, and I can kind of see what's happening here. So what this is, this black area right here is actually where the sword is meeting the body, and this is also. So my guess is this is the left side and this is the right side, because the sword blade will kind of be in between those two. And what I want to do is I want to clean this area up. So now that I know where I'm looking, I'm just going to go ahead and turn off my numbering for now so I can actually see the gunk that's back here, right? And what I want is, I don't even know, maybe the best thing to do is to we're going to have to check the normal map on all this stuff too, I'm pretty sure. But I'm just going to switch back over to LT for a second again and just take a look and see how dramatic my color changes are. They're pretty dramatic. Yeah, this all has to get fixed. This all has to get fixed. So let's go ahead and do it. So let's go back here. And what we're going to try to do is we're going to take this bottom edge here and we're going to try to make it continuous. So let's see if we can do some tricks to make that happen. So I'm just going to zoom in tight. Oh, I hate that grid. I'm just going to zoom in until the grid doesn't show up. I know I can turn it off, but whatever. It's there and I don't feel like looking for it. So I'm just now going to go ahead and grab as much of a selection as I can of the good area and keep it. Okay, so that's pretty good. And I need to make sure that I'm on my main output at this point. So before we do any of this stuff, what we're going to want to do is duplicate the main output. So let's go ahead and drag it down to this little copy button. Okay, and let's turn off one of them. So we can either keep the copy. Yeah, let's keep the copy and leave the main output as the original. So now we're just going to select our main output copy area, and we're just going to kind of work with the selection that we have. So I'm just going to go ahead and hold down my Alt key and drag up a little bit, and drag up a little bit, and drag up a little bit, and now I can go ahead and grab a larger selection so I don't have to do that 100 million times. And I can just grab this much area now, and I can do it again, and I can do it for longer distances now, and I can do that one more time. And eventually this actually becomes very easy because it's a large selection space. So I'm just going to go ahead and hold down my Alt key again and just drag it out until it covers it up, and drag it out until it covers it up, and drag it out until it covers it up. Good. So deselect that area and we should have it nice and smooth now. I'm not messing with this yet because I think in the end if that is an issue at all, that break in the line, I will just go ahead and just blur this area some. But I have a funny feeling that that's actually just because of the angling and not actually an anomaly. So for now, I'm just going to leave it and see how it goes. So let's move up to this area. Let's do the same thing on this. So I'm just going to good. So that area is nice and clean now. And this area is a mess, so let's make that nice. And because this is actually just hidden anyway, I don't even have to care about that. So what I could actually do is just zoom in here and let's see, what's the easiest way? Yep, that's still the easiest way. So let's just continue with what we were doing. We've learned this route, and I think I have enough selection space. Yes, I do. Good. So I'm just going to clean that, and same thing again. And with some luck, it won't look bad. So what I'm doing right now is I'm holding down the Alt key and just using the arrow, and that gives me a single pixel move and copy at the same time. So it just makes it a little easier for me to get a bunch of these when they're so small. So I'm just going to now grab all of them and just do it all at one go. And voila, there we go. I say that a lot. I'm going to stop. So, and for this area where it's like a little not perfect, right? All we have to do is grab this blur tool, and we want to grab the blur, and we can just kind of smush it in. So I'm just clicking and holding and just kind of mushing around this area a little bit, and that should be nice. Okay, oop, that's a little too much. I better not do it so much. That's good enough. So I'm just going to zoom out, and I should be looking pretty good. So you know what? I do want to just blur this edge just a little bit, just to make sure it doesn't become an issue. I doubt it'll be an issue anyway, but let's just double check and be certain. So let's grab our blur tool, and let's just blur that a little bit. All right, that looks good. And the same thing over here. It'll just make it not look so unnatural if it is an issue. It'll make it smooth a little better. So the next thing that I want to do is grab all this, and I'm just going to hold down Alt and drag it off so it's not in my way. Edit, transform, rotate, and I'm just going to rotate it 180 degrees. Now I'm just going to place it into position where it really nicely lines up, and we should be pretty much good. Control D, and yeah, we look good. So we'll just use the blur tool again to kind of just clean up any little problems that we might see, and that should be it. All right, great. So that's that, and let's go ahead and, you know it, take a look. So let's go save, and file, save as, TGA, save. Yes, okay, and let's switch back to Maya LT. So in here, you know, we have to reload those textures again. So I'm going to go into the attribute editor. I'm going to go into my diffuse map, and I'm going to reload it again. Okay, and as you can see now, it's looking really nice and clean. Okay, we have something weird happening here. I'm going to have to look into where that's. Oh, that's from the normal map. I'll fix that. No worries. So that looks good, and we are pretty much on our way. So we have a little bit of trouble up here. We're going to have to clean that up next. And the bottom really looks clean. I'm amazed. But it is. It's perfectly clean. So in here we have a little bit of cleanup to do. So let's get to that now. And I know we have the number on there, but wait, we don't need it for this one. So let's just tab over. And I know it's these two. Okay. And I only know that because I noticed the numbers earlier. So I'm just going to zoom in. And I'm going to go ahead and start cleaning this area up. All right, so what we want to do is simplify this one, because this is an insignificant part. You're never really going to see it. Half of it's covered by the sword. I mean, we don't really even need to fix it, but I like to fix things. So, you know, it's always good to be right, you know, and make it perfect. And besides, there's this black area that we're seeing in the model itself. So it's the shadow cast by the sword itself, and we just want to make sure that there's none of this black that's edging into our visible parts of our model. So that's basically what we're going to want to do here, is just kind of clean this area up some. So what we're going to do is we're just going to grab, it's not easy. This is going to be a little bit more of a challenge. So we're just going to have to work through it. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab from the gradient area to the gradient area. Again, your model might be different, and I don't know exactly how your model turned out and how you have, you know, you may not have these anomalies. You might have totally different anomalies. So, but the concepts are the same. And basically all you want to do is always just keep your object looking good. So all I'm doing is I'm just going to do what we've been doing, and I'm just going to kind of drag this through and keep going. So I'll deselect for a moment, grab my blur tool. I'm not going to be too overly concerned this time. I think I want to do a little bit less. I want less harshness. So I'm going to go down in size and I'm going to go down in strength just to make my life a little bit more easy. And now that I've got a nice selectable area that is good and clean, just trying to make sure that those little bands are out. Okay, that's good enough. And I'm just going to start grabbing from here now. Actually, I gotta clean that up. So I'm just going to keep cleaning this and just kind of blurring this until it kind of looks decent. And keep blurring and keep blurring. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab this space. And I'm just going to start copying it over like we have before. So just running this out. And that should be good. So blur tool, fix up those little bit of issues, and let's move up to this part. Now this part I think I'm just going to paint. So I'm just going to grab the paintbrush tool, and I'm just going to grab a color that is sort of appropriate. So I'm going to grab the selection, and I'm going to grab this gray right here. Okay, and now I'm just going to select out my area and kind of fill it, and then I'll use the blur tool to fix whatever little issues I've got. So I'm just going to do that now, and I'm actually just going to make this all the way from here. Yeah, I'll just do it right up to my last area, sort of, and across and up. Alright, so now I'm just going to paint, grab my paintbrush tool, make sure I have the color selected that I want, and just paint in this area. Grab myself a slightly bigger brush so it doesn't take so long. Okay, good enough. And Control D to deselect, and I'm just going to grab my paintbrush tool again, grab my whitish color. Okay, and I'm just going to make sure my brush size is a decent size and gives me a nice gradient across. Okay, so that solves that issue, and I'm going to do the same thing right here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, I think this part I'm just going to paint also. So I'm just going to grab this, and I'm trying not to get rid of stuff that is kind of good in this. Like you see here, this is a nice blended edge. I want that to stay. So I'm just going across, and I'm keeping those parts that I'd like to keep, and just kind of wiping out the bad spots. And I'm going to go all the way up to the top here, and across, and connect. Alright, good. So now I'm just going to paint, and paint in all this area. Oops, too bright. So I'm going to grab the selection tool and grab this kind of darker area that I have, and paint it out. Okay, and Control D to deselect, and I'm going to grab my blur tool again and just kind of clean this little bit up here. And I'm going to grab my white again just to fix this problem, and grab a nice large brush and just make sure it's kind of painted across. All right, so that should do it. And just make sure you didn't, like, I almost cut this piece, which is really good, and I don't want to mess with it. So what I'm actually going to do now is just kind of make sure my selection looks good, because I like it nice and clean. And I'm just going to grab, oh man, there. And this isn't super critical. I'm just kind of just making it a little cleaner. Oh, I'm lucky those didn't cause issues. I would have to go back and fix all that then. Yeah, be careful with that paintbrush. It's got a lot of radius on it, and it can easily cause you issues if you're not careful. All right, good enough. So I'm just going to go edit and fill, and I'm just going to make it pure black. Black. Okay. And now it looks nice. Okay. So that's good. It doesn't make a difference. Those black areas aren't used anyway, so it really doesn't make a difference at all. It's just, again, I like things to be the way it's supposed to be. So it also makes it easier when you're trying to work. I don't know. I find it to be so. So select, and I'm just going to select this area, and I'm going to grab my paintbrush, and I'm just going to move this down to a size that I can manage in here. And I'm just going to paint in this spot. These are all pretty much shades of gray, so it's easy to match colors. It's not like trying to match difficult colors or anything. It's just grayscale. So, and with the blur tool, you can always get things to blend nice. So yeah, don't worry about it. Just make it look good, and that's all you need to do. All right, so that's that, and that's going to be beautiful now. And I'm just going to select all this. Double click. Going to go Control C and Control V. It's going to add a layer, so we just want to be mindful of that. And I'm just going to move it over, and I'm going to do my little trick where I lower the opacity just to be able to see exactly where it's going to fall. And I'm just going to nudge it into place with my arrow keys again. Okay, so that's good. I'll turn my opacity back to 100%, select my main output copy layer and my layer 10, right click and say merge layers. Okay, because I don't want to lose that. So now I'm just going to say multiply again, and it will lose the original layer name, so what we're going to have to do is just rename it. So I think we called this main output copy. Okay, so we have the main output copy back, and we're just going to check that and make sure that that's set to multiply again. All right, so we should be good. And now I'm not even going to test this because I know that's going to look good, and it's a really insignificant part. And in the sake of saving time, I'm just going to keep moving forward. So the next area we're going to need gold is these spots. Okay, so let's just go ahead and do these as we have before. So I'm going to turn on my outlines. And I'm just going to zoom in here, and I'm just going to select up all this stuff here. So select tool, and select, oops, I'm on the wrong layer, make sure it's on outlines, select, 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 select. What else is going to need to be gold? These are going to need to be gold, so select, select, select. And that's the handle, I don't need that gold. We are going to have to do this little spot, but not yet. So this is all gold. So grab these guys. Okay, I don't remember what this piece is. I'll have to look with my numbers again. So I don't want to mess with that right now. I'm assuming it's something to do with... what is that for? That's why we find out later. So select, modify, expand. And we know that 10 pixels is the magic number, so hit OK. And let's create a new layer in our base colors layer. So new, and edit, fill, and just pick a goldish color again. And it's not going to be too important. I'm actually going to be organizing these layers up in a very short time, so the colors aren't actually as important, just as long as you know what they signify. So hit OK, and now we've got colors in all those areas. So this is going to be the bottom of the pommel. This is the top of the pommel. This is These are on top of that edge. This is that part underneath. So I think we're going to actually look pretty good. Oh, this is going to need to be gold. So let's zoom into these. And those two are probably going to need to be gold as well. They're probably continuations. So let's grab our outlines layer and hit select, 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 select. Grab all these guys. Select, modify, expand, 10 pixels. OK. So make sure that you're not in the outlines layer. Make sure you select your yellow layer again and hit edit, fill, and hit OK. And now that should be good. Now, as I was saying, so it's starting to get confusing down here, right? We have a lot of layers and a lot of stuff that's, I don't even know what these are. Why are these even here? I don't know. I must have done that while not recording. So I'm just going to delete them for now because I don't think they're relative. So, so we have a lot of layers here, and they're starting to get disorganized. But one thing that we can do is start to organize them. So let's do that. I'm just pulling this out a little bit to be able to see better. So what I'm trying to look for, and you can even do this, you can go in here and go panel options and make them into large objects so you can see them better. And now what we're trying to do is group like things. So we want the reds to be with the reds, so grab the red and the red and see if there's any other reds. There aren't. I know there aren't. So right click, and we're just going to say merge layers. And we're going to grab the yellows and all the yellow ones, and we're going to go right click, and we're going to say merge layers. And then, so now we've got all of our yellow pieces on one layer. So that's going to be nice and convenient for us. Now we want to grab all these light gray ones and right click and say merge layers. And now we're going to grab our black layers, right click and say merge layers. And we're going to grab our sort of like the sword hilt insets, and we're going to go merge layers. So now we've got our 4 different colors kind of separated out. So all we have to do now is go edit, fill, color, right? But and we're gonna pick a nice gold, and I want it to be a little darker than last time, so I'm gonna hit OK, and I'm gonna hit preserve transparency and hit OK. All right, so now all of them, everything that's gold, just got a universally changed color. So everything is in sync now, you know. So that's a nice way to handle it. But as you notice, we have these things kind of out of order again, so we have to put them back into order. So it goes the black layer next, then the white layer, then the red layer, and lastly we'll put these guys up on top, not that it matters. All right, so there we have it, and we have all of our pieces kind of color coded at this point, and we should be kind of good to go. Okay, so what we're going to want to do now is we're going to jump into this little area over here and see if we can make this kind of look a little better. So we know we have some gold in here, so let's go ahead and grab our gold layer, and let's grab our select tool, and I'm just going to zoom in a little more because, yeah, that's better. Okay, good. So now I can kind of see what's happening. And I can see there's a little blurriness here. I'm not going to worry about that too much. Probably just a little anomaly when the map was baking. And I'm just going to click on out, and I'm just going to select all this area up. Okay, so on the gold layer, I'm now going to go edit, and I'm going to go fill, and I'm going to make sure I still have my gold color selected. And this time I want to turn off the preserve transparency because this is transparent, and if I leave it with preserve transparency on, nothing will actually get filled because nothing has color in it yet. So what that means is, like, okay, so you see here how it has like the checker pattern? So that's all transparent area, and anything here has color in it. So all this says is respect whether or not it's transparent already. In other words, only fill where it's transparent. Because we have a selection area and it's not actually going to be going on top of anything with any sort of opacity yet, it would literally just do nothing. So we want to make sure that we don't have that selected at this moment. So go ahead and hit OK, and now that should be filled. I do want to turn off my lines layer just so that I don't have to see them. And I'm just going to zoom out a little bit and kind of take a look. Yeah, that looks great. So I'm just going to zoom in, and I'm now going to do my red areas. So let me grab my red layer, and I'm doing deselect, and which is Control D, and I'm just going to grab a little my elliptical tool, and in here I just kind of want to select in with my select tool here, and I just went transform selection, and now I'm just making sure it fits nicely into that spot. In fact, I'm not sure. That might be that is the bevel of the gold, so I'm just going to go to this inside area so it matches the actual gem that I put in there. Alright, that should be kind of good. Yeah, it's good. Okay, so I'm going to hit return to commit, and I'm just going to go edit, fill, and I'm just going to pick a red because we haven't normalized the reds yet, so it doesn't even matter. And red. It doesn't actually matter at all because you can always renormalize. That's the beauty of this. So when you need to do later on and you want to do color adjustments, you can do them very rapidly because you're just going to adjust your gold layer or your black layer or your silver layer, etc. So it just makes the process very easy to edit and manage and manipulate, because that's one of the things that you always forget, and it's easy to get in trouble with, is you don't want to design yourself into a corner. You don't want to be like stuck, like, oh, now it's really hard to fix. So I always try, in my way, I always try to say, how can I keep this as editable as possible? And by doing that, this kind of thing works out, and you end up thinking like this instead of just painting all on one layer, for example. I mean, we all do it to some degree, but it's something you want to do. It's something you want to keep in mind, that it's important. It's just very important. So I'm going to go down to this black area, but this is going to be a different type of black, but it's not going to be this gray, right? So I'm just going to this is going to be like a leathery substance. So I'm just going to not put this with the black of the metals. So I don't want them to be the same. They're not really the same. So I'm just going to create a new layer, and I'm just going to go ahead and select out where I think I need to be. So I'm just going to go out to about here, and I'm going to go edit, and I'm going to go fill, and I'm going to say color, and I want to pick kind of like a dark browny kind of muddy brown color. Okay, so that doesn't look it, but you'll see. And hit OK. So what I want to do is put it below the gold. Okay, so that's all that I needed to do. So hit Control D, and that should be good. This up here is going to be gold, so I'm just going to grab here, and luckily I still have the gold loaded into my selection. So I'm just going to go ahead and select this. Otherwise, just pick another gold. It's not a big deal either way. And I'm just going to kind of constrain this down a little bit, constrain this down a little bit, and I'm just going to go edit and fill. And I'm just going to use the foreground color this time, because that'll grab this color that's loaded here, and I'll say OK, and there I go. So now I've got that part finished. Now in here, I don't think that's an issue. If I wanted, yeah, I'll just do it because it's the right thing to do, and it does sometimes curb out problems. So I don't think this will. I don't think this is a problem, but I'm just going to do it anyway. And I'm just going to kind of, oops. Let me make sure I'm on the right layer. I'm on the main output copy layer, and I'm just going to drag this out so that it's cleaner. Okay, so Control D, and if I have to, I'll use my blur tool, but I think it's actually going to cause more problems than it'll do good. Oh no, it's good. That's fine. I have it nice and light, so it doesn't really mess with anything too much, and it will soften this up a touch. Once we add our scratches and everything else, this is going to be unnoticeable. So here we go. I kind of know what this is, so I'm just working from what I know. You could, of course, add your numbers back and switch over to Maya LT and just see exactly what this is if you want to, but I kind of know what it is. So I'm just going to keep going. And I'm going to go to my gold layer, and I'm going to go edit, fill. I'm going to keep it on foreground so I have that color loaded. Okay. And I'm just going to move the selection. So I'm just going to move it over to here and go select, modify, transform selection. And yeah, that should be good. You have to commit the selection with return. Go edit, fill, foreground color to pick up this color again. Okay. Control D to deselect. And I'm just going to zoom out a little bit so I can see what I've got going. I don't know if that black line is going to be an issue. If it is, I will deal with it. But right now what I want to do is I actually want to just see what we've got. Okay, so let's go ahead and hit Control S to save. And let's go File, Save As, TGA. So now I'm going to go to my diffuse and hit save. Yes, I want to overwrite. And yes, I just want to leave it as is. Okay, good. So I know that this is exactly where it's ending, and I need to actually get to this part. Okay, so that's just a nice little way you can figure stuff out. You got to have these little tricks because sometimes it can be really confusing. So it is our 8 that's going to be our issue, and let's jump back over to Photoshop and let's take a look for 8. Let's find him. Okay, so there's 8. Let's jump in there. Yeah, we can see the problem now. Okay, so how are we going to fix this? I'm not entirely sure yet. And a lot of it's going to be in the normal map also, but a lot of it here is in the color too. We can see that there's a definite change of color here. So let's see what we can do. Let's grab our select tool again, and let's just kind of trace this out and make sure we at least have a selection to work with. I know I had my reason. So that's that. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go select inverse. Okay. So now it's actually selected everything out here. Okay. But now what we want to do is we want to get it so that it's only seeing this shape. And all I'm going to do now is I'm just going to grab my square tool and hold down the Alt key. Negative select this, negative select this, negative select this, and zoom back in again. Now wherever it's an issue, I'm just going to clip off those parts. I should have just done this selection first and deselected the inside, but whatever. We're doing it this way. So click and come down and over and up and down. I'm sorry if I'm rushing a little bit of this now at this point. It's just this video is getting very long, and I was really hoping to not make it so long. So forgive me if I'm being a little bit more rushed. It's also Photoshop. I mean, I'm assuming again that you really are kind of okay in managing Photoshop. If you're doing 3D stuff, you kind of have to know Photoshop. It's a must. So I'm just selecting this out, selecting this out, and we're good. Okay. Okay, so what I want to do here is, now that I've got my selection, right, I'm going to want to select my main output layer, okay, and I'm just going to turn off the base colors for now, just so I can kind of see what I'm doing, okay, and what I want is I just want this to be just the solid gray, so I'm just going to select, and I'm going to grab my solid gray, and I'm going to go edit, fill, foreground color, and I'm just going to leave it with nothing, right? No, don't preserve the transparency. I guess it wouldn't matter, but let's not preserve transparency, and hit OK. Okay, so that's going to clean that part up pretty nicely, and that's all going to look decent now. So now we can turn our base colors back on, and we should look a lot cleaner. Okay, so let's go back up. I have my numbers tabbed out. I'm sorry. I'm just going to undo my numbering tab, and I'm just going to turn the numbers off. And I'm going to go View, Fit on Screen, and I just want to take one more quick look. So yeah, everything looks kind of better, and I want to see how this specific thing that we've been trying to work on worked out. So I'm going to go File, Save, wait for it to finish, File, Save As, and I'm going to go TGA, and Save, and yes, and OK. So here we are, and I just want to reload my textures, and yeah, that's already starting to look a lot cleaner.